This course is presented to you free of charge by TTJ Tech Services of www.ttjtech.biz and by Stir It Up of www.stiritup.com. And remember, stir is spelled with a U, not an I, so that's STURITUP.com. TTJ Tech Services and Stir It Up are pleased to offer this course to you to the glory of God and to the benefit of all those who listen. Voiceover In and Out, session number 11 today. We're glad to have you, and we are going to be teaching on the Files app today. I've got an iPhone here, of course, and I'm going to be using it to demo the Files app for you a little bit today. But before we do, I'd like to sort of explain a little bit about what the Files app is and why it's so important in this day and age. Now, one of the places where people seem to struggle when first learning how to use a computer of any sort is they seem to struggle with the file management aspect of things. And that's especially true on Windows, because in Windows you have this very it just almost sounds foreign if you're not used to it and you don't understand what it is. You have C:\\documents / all different addresses for different locations and so on. And you have drive letters and all of that. And that's something that is a struggle for a lot of people. New users will start to learn how to use the computer, and they'll be doing just fine until they sort of get to that place. But as teachers, you teach it to them anyway, because if they're ever doing anything serious with their devices, they're going to need to know, right? Where did my downloads go? Where did I store that document? Where did I put this file? And so there need to be very clear instructions on how to do that, but that becomes tricky in the PC world. Well, from day one, Apple has tried to simplify that. And even on the Macintosh, they have simplified it over what you have in Windows, because they don't use drive letters, right? You'll have the name of a drive like Macintosh HD or whatever name you want to give your hard drive. It usually is Macintosh HD by default. But you might have things stored in a certain place, and you can sort of follow the patterns there to learn that. And then the iPhone came along. And I dare say that the vast majority of people had no idea what the iPhone was going to become when it was first released. And maybe some of your really forward-thinking people, maybe Steve Jobs, maybe Tim Cook, maybe some of these people who worked at Apple had, the idea that someday it could become what it is. But I'm not even sure really if Apple knew the extent to which that would happen. And so when the iPhone was first introduced, it was introduced by Steve Jobs, and you can watch the presentation. I believe it was called Macworld 2007. It's still one of the best presentations I've ever seen. If you want to watch something that is tech related, but that's truly motivational, and the way the crowd reacts and stuff, everybody ought to see that presentation at least once in their lives, truthfully. But in that presentation, he introduced the iPhone as 3 devices in one: an iPod, a phone, and an internet communicator or an internet communications device. So nowhere in those 3 devices did we really think about the file system, because we didn't have to. If it's using an iPod interface, it's got music organized not by file, but by artist, by album, by genre. And that was already something unique to the Windows world, because if you were a Windows user, a lot of times what you did is you just went into your music folder and you started playing music, right? The original Windows media player back then wasn't very good at organizing by all of these other things. And you could try, but it just really wasn't very robust. And you often ended up just going into, C:\/ documents and settings, or I think then later it was C:\/ users whatever. And then, you'd organize your tracks so that they were named in numerical and alphanumerical order. So 0, 1, and then the name of the song. That would be how you'd ensure that the first song played first, and so on. Nobody thought about anything beyond that. So the iPod already changed that for those who used it. And once iTunes came around, which, by the way, bit of trivia for you, iTunes was not released with the initial iPod. It was released a little bit later. And so, as this happened, then it became less and less critical to use file and folder management, even with your music. But that took a shift in thinking for the Windows users, right? So the iPod didn't need you as the user to understand the file system. The phone certainly didn't, because you make a call, you use your contacts, which again was really revolutionary for people that were using basic, flip phones or those candy bar style phones, because they were dialing numbers and using their recents and everything, and now we actually have a good contact system. And so even that was a stretch for people. And as an internet communicator, that just meant you could go into Safari and you could browse the web. You could go into maps and search for places using, and see the business information and these kinds of things. And at that time, it was Google Maps, not Apple Maps. But, none of this really required you to have an understanding of the file system. And then the iPad came into existence. And again, there was, I think, a lot of confusion is probably too negative of a word, but there was a lot of uncertainty about what role the iPad would fulfill. When Steve Jobs introduced the iPad, he positioned it as a device to be in between the iPhone and the Mac. So, in his vision, initially, that's the purpose that it fulfilled. I'm sure that, again, maybe in the recesses of his mind, he could see the iPad becoming a true desktop replacement, but that's not how it was marketed in the beginning. And I remember thinking it really would be cool if that happened. And I remember thinking that I could see that happening in the distant future. But, again, there were years of the sort of evolving process of the iPad. Pages, Keynote, and Numbers were introduced for the iPad on day one. And in about a year later, roughly, a little more, but year and a half later, iCloud was introduced. And there were ways of working with your documents and moving them to the Mac through iCloud and storing them in iCloud and so on. But we still didn't have really this true file and folder management yet. What happened was, as the iPad became more and more relevant to everyday productivity, and it started to sort of very aggressively, but in such a gentle way, sort of reposition itself from this in-between device to being the be-all, end-all device that you could do everything with. And then the iPhone followed suit, because people sort of said, well, that's great that I can get Pages, Keynote, and Numbers on my iPad and do all these things. What if I want to do them on my iPhone too? And so pretty soon now we're doing productivity stuff even on our iPhones. The more that this happened, the more we really needed some sort of a file system, or more appropriately stated, we needed a way to access and manage that file system, because we now are storing documents. We now, we're suddenly getting tons and tons of attachments, right? And people are saying, well, where am I going to save these attachments? I want to be able to save them somewhere outside of the mail app. And I'm getting all these files. And what do I do? So it became necessary for Apple to give some access to the user to the file system. Now, they don't give full unfettered access to the file system to the end user. And quite frankly, I'm glad. And I hope they never do change course on that. I'm sure there are some people who disagree with me, and that's okay. You're entitled to your opinion. But as far as I'm concerned, the user has no business or no need getting into system files and these sorts of things. That really the only thing they could stand to do there is mess things up and not really help anything. So I don't think that there needs to be that, in my personal opinion. But this is not an opinion piece, right? This is a class. So I'm just pointing that out, and we're going to move on. What Apple felt, I believe, and I can't really speak for Apple, but what it seems like Apple felt they needed to do was to come up with a way to provide easy access to an advanced set of file management tools without making things complicated, without making it hard. Because one of the beautiful things of the iPhone and the iPad is that whether you're 2 years old or 102, you can learn to use these devices, right? It's easier than any other platform. All right. Obviously, it's easier than Windows. You got to click start and then go into this and go into, and even the Mac. Now the Mac has Launchpad, so it's sort of become easier. But up until that point, and really on an iPhone or an iPad, well, you want to make a call, there's a telephone icon. You tap on it. I mean, how much easier does it get? And so there's always been this incredible degree of simplicity and power with these so-called mobile devices, which really is not even appropriate for the iPad anymore and barely appropriate for the iPhone, truthfully. The only reason they can be called mobile devices is because they are mobile. But really, with the power they have and the functionality and the capability is far, far greater than any mobile device was originally intended to have. And so it's so awesome, praise God. But here's the thing, we have to keep it simple. We have to keep allowing this to be a platform that's not going to make you pull your hair out or want to pull your hair out, and yet you get this extra functionality. And so how are we going to do this with the file system? And I will tell you that it still to this day starts with using the app that created a particular file to access that file. Now, this is where we get into a little bit of personal preference. Some people might disagree with me. We're going to have Trainer Cliff after we finish the teaching here, and he'll share his comments, and maybe he'll disagree with me because I know he likes to use the Files app first and foremost in many cases as a go-to, and that's okay. It's personal preference. Nothing wrong with that. For me, I still like to go first to the app that created the file. So in other words, if I'm going to work on a Pages document, I don't go to the Files app and go to my Pages folder. I open up Pages and then I find the file. And more on that in a minute, okay? If I'm working on a Keynote presentation, I open Keynote and then I open the file. And why not? Because when you open an email, you go to the Mail app, right? And you find the message. When you open an event on your calendar, you go to the Calendar app. You don't browse to C:\applications\calendar\events, but whatever. I'm just making something up. But you know what I'm saying? You go to the app that generated the file. And so that's still entirely possible to do. And we're going to show you how. And basically the answer is because Apple has now integrated a files framework or API in such a way that you can see all of the files inside of the apps. And so even with a more advanced file management system, you can still do that. And that to me is always going to be the best way. And you'll certainly have that option. But here's the thing. Now, what if you have files that you want to work with that were not directly associated with any particular app on your device? Let's say somebody sends you an audio file and it's not really associated with a particular app right now. Maybe you're going to use it with a particular app, but you're not even sure what app you're going to use it with yet. Or what if you're working on a project that involves multiple types of files? In other words, let's say that we're planning some sort of, we could use like a retirement party or birthday party for somebody, or we could say, it's a project for school or for work. It doesn't matter. But what if it encompasses more than one app? Your dinner party is going to have use of the Pages app, so you can make invitations. During the party, you have a keynote presentation you're going to show on somebody's life, if it's a retirement party or something. You're going to play music together, and so you have GarageBand involved, or making use of multiple apps. And so now, how do we access all of this? And so we really do need a file management app. And that app, most appropriately, happens to be called Files. And Apple has included the Files app all the way back, I think, to iOS 13, if I'm not mistaken. Before that, it was called iCloud Drive, if I remember right. So you always could access iCloud, but with iOS 13, it became more robust. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was like iOS. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Anyhow, that's the idea, is that this app has been around for a while, and it's been modified and altered in order to give you more and more features and more access to things. In its modern form, as of, iOS 16, 17, these different versions here, there's really a lot that you can do with this Files app. So first and foremost, it gives you access to iCloud, and specifically iCloud Drive, which is very important in the life of an Apple user, of course. iCloud Drive is, in my opinion, the absolute best place to store your files. Now, remember when we talked at the beginning about iCloud, you're going to get 5 gigabytes of iCloud storage free with your Apple ID. But for just 99 cents a month, you can get an iCloud Plus plan that includes 50 gigabytes of iCloud storage. So you have the option of very inexpensively upgrading, just $1 a month, basically. And if you get an Apple One bundle, which I highly recommend, that includes things like Apple Music and Apple News and Apple Arcade, News Plus and Arcade and so forth, you're going to always get some degree of additional iCloud storage with that Apple One bundle as well. Now, you can go up above 50 gigabytes. You can go to 200. You can go to a 2 terabyte plan. And now you can go all the way up to 12 terabytes, I believe is the highest one, just depending on how much you need and how much you want to spend. My family and I have 4 terabytes right now. We do that because the Apple One Premier bundle that we have already includes 2 terabytes. We supplemented it with another 2. As of right now, we've only used, something like 1.5 or 1.2 terabytes or something. So we still have over 3 terabytes right now of iCloud storage left. When we get down to maybe having 1 terabyte left, then I'll think about upgrading to the 6 terabyte or even the 12 terabyte plan at that point. But I don't see that happening anytime in the near future, because we've been on 4 for quite some time. And that includes things that you don't even see on iCloud Drive, like your photo library that's stored also in iCloud, and uses that space, but it's not iCloud Drive. It's just stored in iCloud also. So that iCloud storage is many, many things. Now, I believe, it is my opinion, that iCloud Drive is the absolute best place to store things on your Apple devices, because you can access whatever you're storing then on all of your Apple devices. So you don't have to worry about, well, which device did I create this on? And did I remember to copy this over and all that? Any device you use, any Apple device, it's going to be there as long as you're signed in with the same Apple ID and everything is set up and configured correctly. So, which usually it is, that just by the default settings even are fine. So, okay, I have an iPad. I have 2 iPads. I create a Pages document on one iPad. And then the next time I want to work on that Pages document, I'm on my other iPad or my iPhone or even my Mac. And praise God, the file is just there. I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to remember to manually sync it or anything. It's just there. It's automatic. It's wireless. Internet connection, Wi-Fi or cellular, and you're good to go. And this is the benefit of iCloud, right? And one of the many benefits of iCloud. So everything is available, and you don't have to worry people say, well, how do I know, when I get a new device that all my files are going to be there? Well, because you store them in iCloud and then you don't have to worry about that, right? And that even applies to the Macintosh. So if we, have this Mac that we've been running for 8 years and we finally decide it's time to upgrade to, an M1 or M2 or maybe now even an M3 Mac, why we can just do that with the peace of mind of knowing, hey, all my stuff's going to be there anyway, right? So it's really, really, and this is putting backups aside. Now, I like backups. I use backups at times, and I do have my backups set to occur automatically. We'll talk about that in a later class. I back up to iCloud, automatically, and that's great. But sometimes when I get a new device, I don't always restore from a backup. I do sometimes, but other times I say, hey, I want just a clean start, just install the apps I want, whatever. But I know, praise God, my files, my folders, my calendar events, my photos, my music, my TV shows, all these things are still going to be there right where I expect them to be, even if I don't restore from a backup, because they are stored in iCloud. So that's one of the many beautiful things about using iCloud Drive as a storage location. And again, it is integrated directly into the Files app. Now, there are other things that are integrated directly into the Files app. For one thing, your local device storage is available in the Files app, and that's going to be called basically whatever the name of the device is. Like if you're using an iPad, it's going to say on my iPad. If you're using an iPhone, it's going to say on my iPhone. So you don't have to worry about again, drive letters and things of that nature. It's just on my iPad, on my iPhone. On the Mac, I do actually believe there's an on my Mac, but it's then sort of separated into, again, your Macintosh HD is the default name of the hard drive and so forth. And so, but that same kind of thing, right? And so in all of these cases, you have local storage that you can access. On the Mac, it's the Finder that accesses them, not files. It's called Finder. And on iOS and iPad OS, it is the Files app, and it has on my iPad, on my iPhone, whatever. And it's limited to the current device that you have in your hand at that moment. So that's your local storage. And there are some apps that do store locally for various reasons. And so that's good to know about. Now, in addition to that, you're also going to have some other storage options in the Files app. For one thing, you're going to have access to any other file cloud storage service that you can think of, pretty much, right? As long as you download the third-party app and sign in, you will then be able to use the Files app to access these locations. You'll have to make the connection, but that's very easy to do. And I'll show you where that is. But, if you use Google Drive, Dropbox, pCloud, Microsoft OneDrive, any of these different file storage systems, you can access them within the Files app as well. And it doesn't stop there. The Files app also gives you access to USB thumb drives, flash drives, external hard drives, SD cards, all of these kinds of things that you might connect to your device. Now, specific to SD cards, if you're trying to transfer photos, for example, you don't need to use the Files app to do that. You can go into the Photos app, and that SD card will show up there as well, and it will ask you if you want to transfer the photos. So there's a more automated, more direct path to transferring photos specifically, but you might use your SD card for other things, and then you want to access those in the Files app. All right, so you can do that as well. And it still doesn't stop there, because you can also use the Files app to access remote file servers. Like if you have, when we did our Apple TV Tuesdays with TTJ session a few weeks ago, Trainer Cliff talked about storing home movies on basically a file server. You call it a NAS, a network attached storage device, but basically it's a hard drive that connects to your Wi-Fi gateway or router or what have you. And the one that we talked about that day was the Western Digital, or WD My Cloud. That's an external hard drive that is a file server, basically. So you put that on your network and you can access that in the Files app. And there are other kinds of file servers too, including these Windows-based SMB file servers, and all of that can be accessed in the Files app. So you have an app that really allows you to access any kind of local or network storage that you can possibly think of. And not only does it allow you to access them, but it allows you to create folders. It allows you to rename. It allows you to organize. It allows you to delete. It allows you to share. Pretty much anything you'd ever want to do in the file management world, you can do. Even zipping and unzipping your files, you can do in the Files app. If you want to make a compressed folder or a zip archive, you can do that as well. So really, all of these features built right in. Boy, I was just thinking about that. You remember the days when you needed an external or a third-party app back in the Windows days? I remember needing, what was it? PK Unzip was one of them, and then WinZip, and all these things. And it just was crazy, right? You don't have to do any of that. So, and in fairness, even Windows has some of that built in now, but still. So let me do this. Let me kind of show you a little bit about the Files app, show you around a little, and give you a feel for what you can expect. I think we've established, why this is so important. I mean, if all you're doing is using your phone to make phone calls and to, send messages and to, list the occasional item on eBay or something, if Facebook, it's probably not critical for you. But what I see a lot in the lives of iPhone and iPad users is that they'll get the device for what they believe are going to be, 1, 2, or maybe 3 purposes. And then before they know it, once they realize that they can do all these other things on the device, then they want to do them because it's such an awesome device and things are so easy and yet so powerful. So then they realize, oh, I didn't know I could do that. How do I do it? Now that I'm aware that it can be done, I want to do it, And so I think that tends to be the case. And especially for Voiceover users, where this is really a powerful device and an accessible device. And so we're going to show you the Files app now. My iPhone is right here.
3:03 p.m. Messages, conversation. Doc, messages, settings, search, page 1 of 8.
All right, my Files app is on page 2.
Page 2 of 8. 4 files.
There it is.
Double tap to open.
So let's open the Files app.
Files.
Okay. Now, this happens to be a tabbed app. There are, I think, 3, maybe 4, but I think 3 tabs across the bottom. I mostly use this on the iPad, so for me, there'll be a little exploring here too. But let's see the tabs at the bottom.
Tab bar, recents, tab, 1 of 3, shared, tab, 2 of 3, selected, browse, tab, 3 of 3.
Okay. So, 3 tabs. Pretty self-explanatory. Recents is going to display an automatic list of the files that you've used most recently. And this is a good way if you, we're just working with something, you want to find it again right away. You could easily do that from the Recents tab. Shared, remember that there is a big emphasis on collaboration. We talked about collaboration with iCloud before, like, for example, when you want to work together on a note in the Notes app. We said you could create an individual note or even an entire notes list, which you share, and everybody can work together in real time. All the participants can add to notes or edit notes or do whatever they want to do. And the Files app is no exception. You can share individual files and you can share entire folders and everything in them. And again, this is collaborative, so you can be working together. Everybody sees the changes. And so this shared tab lets you access the files and folders that you have shared and or that have been shared with you. It could go either direction, okay? And then the third one is browse, where we're actually going to work mostly today because it's the most complete way to access everything. So I already have that selected, I do believe.
Selected. Browse. Tab. 3 of 3.
So now what I'll do is I'm going to jump up to the top left and let me make sure I'm back as far as I can go.
Browse. Back button.
Let's go back.
Browse. More button.
All right.
More button.
So now we see that we have a more button on the top left. Let's look at the top right.
More button. More.
All right, that must be a big button because it's taking up all the space there. And so let's double tap it and see what it gives us.
Scan documents button. Scan documents.
So we can scan documents. Okay, if we have a file that we want to scan in here as an image.
Connect to server button.
And that's where we would connect to one of those file servers.
Edit button. Dismiss context menu button.
All right. Edit and dismiss context menu. Edit is where we're going to see. Let me just show you.
Edit. Edit. Locations button. Heading expanded.
We're going to turn on and off the different locations. So we have
iCloud Drive. Switched button.
Okay.
Double tap to toggle setting.
And then
switched button on.
So you can see that iCloud Drive is, and you can even reorder it here.
Reorder iCloud Drive button. Draggable.
All right.
On my iPhone.
There's that local storage on my iPhone. And if you go to the right,
switched button on.
It's on as well.
Reorder
you can reorder it. Now let's look at some of the other ones we have here.
Drive. Switched button on.
Okay, that's Drive. That's Google Drive. Again, I have the Google Drive app installed, so it's going to show that.
Reorder Drive. Recently deleted button.
And that's the only ones. Those are the only ones that I have. I don't have Dropbox installed. I don't have OneDrive installed. None of those. But if I did, I would see them here.
Favorites button. Downloads button.
Okay. Favorites. These are other locations, and you can reorder them. And then we have a thing called tags, which I'll actually get out of edit, and I'll show you what that is. Let's hit done. So edit's where you're going to go if you want to turn on and off or reorder any of these locations the way that they appear in the Files app. You'll notice that iCloud Drive is first for me because that's the one I mostly use. Another thing that this app supports besides folders and locations is it supports tags. And we talked a little bit about tags, I believe, when we talked about the Notes app. But basically what a tag is it's a friendly little descriptor that you can give to any file. And when you give that descriptor, you can then use that tag for other files as well. So I often use this when I'm working on specific projects. For example, I have a TTJ tag. And so any file or folder that I create that's relevant to TTJ, I can put a tag. I can choose the TTJ tag. So when I want to find something, I don't need to know what folder it's in. It could be a video. It could be a Pages document. It could be a spreadsheet. But if it's tagged with TTJ, I can find it by that tag. And so the tags are really powerful, really useful. I'll show you some of them as we go. All right. So we got out of the edit menu now because we're not going to modify any of this stuff. We are back to this more button.
More button.
And let's go to the right.
Browse heading.
There's our heading.
Search field. Dictate button.
And of course we can voice.
Double tap to start dictation. Double tap with 2 fingers when finished.
We can voice dictate or we can search the Files app.
Locations button. Heading expanded. Double tap to collapse. Actions available.
And actions available.
Collapse content. Activate.
Okay.
Default.
Really the same thing. So you hear that it's expanded already. If you double tap on it, it collapses it, which means you're not going to be able to see the content that's in it. So we would possibly, I don't know really, but we're not going to do that. We're going to leave it expanded. And I'm going to show you what, again, you already know because we saw them before, but.
iCloud Drive. Switched button. On my iPhone. Switched button. Drive. Switched button.
Those are the 3 locations that we have. So any one of those that I want to access, I just double tap it and it's going to take me to it. All right. I know it says switch button, but that's just the way it looks. If you double tap it, it opens it up and it takes you to that particular location. And then after that,
Drive. Recently deleted button.
We have recently deleted, and that is anything that you delete. It's going to stay in there for a specific amount of time. It depends on what the file system is that you're using. I think with iCloud Drive, I think it's 30 days maybe. And you can manually delete that, or if you just leave it there, it will eventually get deleted. You can recover it as well. So that's recently deleted.
Favorites button, heading expanded. Double tap to collapse. Swipe up or down.
Now that is favorites. Again, you notice that's another collapsible heading. So underneath that are any favorites that you've designated as such. And you get one by default. I've never really used it beyond that, but
downloads button.
It's the downloads folder.
Swipe up or down.
So that was automatically made a favorite.
Tags button.
Now,
heading expanded.
I do use this. This is the tags section. It's already expanded. We can see.
Faith Summit button.
Okay.
Swipe up or down to select
There's a tag that I recently created called Faith Summit. That was an event that we had this past summer. We're going to have another one next summer. So praise God. Let's see.
Family button. Podcasts button. TTJ button. Purple but gray. Red. Space Course. Apple logo. Important button.
So some of these are colored tags. Whoops. Apologize there. If we made a noise there, sorry about that. But some of these are colored tags and others are just names. If I open up one of these, I'm going to have the files and folders that are specific to that tag. Anything that I've tagged, and I can always tag more stuff with that same name. I can choose that tag. I'll show you how to do that later. But, so if I, for example, open if I open up the Faith Summit tag, you're going to see
Flyer for Faith Summit, second image, W web address, copy QR code, second copy, flattened image, 7 flyer for Faith Summit, white letters, flattened image, Reverend image.
Okay, those are some images that we used to make there were flyers for the event, so they're tagged with Faith Summit. Now let's go back on the upper left here.
Search more, Faith Summit, heading.
Okay.
Browse, back
button. I'm going to go back to browse. And this time I'm going to open a location. I'm going to open iCloud Drive because that is, as I said, where the vast majority of things are that I use.
Favorite, recently dropped on iCloud Drive. ACEWAIOS.
It puts me on the first item, but look at the upper left.
Browse, back button.
Takes you back. And let's go to the right.
iCloud Drive, heading, more, button.
Again, we have a more button, but it's different this time inside of a location. Let's see what's in it.
Select, button. New folder, button. Scan documents. Connect to server. Selected. Icons, button. List, button. Selected. Name, button. Kind, button. Date, button. Size, button. Tags, button. View options, button. Dismiss context menu.
All right. Lots and lots of stuff. Lots and lots of stuff to talk about in this context menu, in this more button. So the first things you had were the new folder button and also what was the other one? I got to go back up and look. Oh, select. New folder, just as its name suggests, allows you to create a new folder in the current location. You could even create a subfolder within a folder. You also have here this select button. That brings you to a multi-select interface where you can select multiple items. If I want to move or delete 7 folders or files at the same time, I can select them. That's where you get that interface from. Then the next one was scan document and connect to server. Again, we saw those before. Now, if we keep moving, we have the different ways that these files and folders are grouped. So right now, we are viewing them as icons.
Selected icons.
But we also can view them as a list. And then here's the grouping now.
Selected name, kind, date, size, tags, button.
And then view options for even more. But that's collapsed. You can expand it. But basically, so what you had was name, size, kind, tags, and date. So if you want to view these alphabetically by their name, you can select that. If you want to view them by kind, like all the files together, all the folders together, all the, whatever, you can have the date, by date. So all of these options, and then we can even expand.
Tags, view options, button.
That.
View options, button. Expanded, group by. Selected, none, button. kind, button, date, button, size, but shared by, button, show all extensions, button, dismiss context menu.
So look at all those options. That's where, okay, so the other one was actually the kind of file, but this is like group by kind, you know. So you have both of these options. We'll collapse that. I'm going to dismiss this because there's nothing we want to do
Dismiss context menu
in there, but I just wanted to show you all those different options that you have. You can play with this on your own to see how it affects the organization of files and folders and such. And certainly that's up to you. A lot of that's all personal preference. There's no right or wrong there. Once we get past that, remember, we're inside of the iCloud Drive location, and that was the More button.
iCloud More button.
Now we're going to
Search.
get to search again if we want to search for something. And finally, we're going to get to everything that's stored here. I have a bunch of folders. Every once in a while, you're going to see that I have a folder that is the name of a project. I don't normally like to do that. I like to keep the folders specific to the kind of file, like videos and PDFs and stuff. And then I like to tag them with the project name. But sometimes I've had to make folders based on a particular project because I had to share that folder with other participants, and that was the easiest way to do it. So, for example,
ACEWAIOS folder, 14 items, shared by me.
That one is a perfect example where I needed to share that, and that's what it's called. Now,
Art Studio Pro folder, 5 items.
Art Studio Pro. That's not a folder I created. That's a folder that was created by the Art Studio Pro app. The technical name for those kinds of folders is libraries. When an app creates a folder for you, it's actually called a library. But for the end user, it functions just like any other folder, really. Let's keep going.
ATLC project, attachments and photos folder, 86 items. Audio exchange folder, 21 items, shared by Cliff and Shari Miller.
So there's a folder that trainer Cliff shared with me. And I can keep going. I mean, I don't need to go through my whole list of folders here, but all of these are things that, you know, we're just in the A's. And if I want to tap on the very bottom of the screen, I'll get the status bar and we'll see.
Tab bar, recent, 49 items. Zoom audio, 49 items.
Okay, so there are 49. And then if I go to the right of that, it tells me.
Sync with iCloud.
All right, so praise God, everything's in sync. And you see there are 49 items here. And then there are things inside of those, right? That's just the ones that are listed here. Some of these are created by apps like the Pages folder or Pages library, you know, and different things of that nature. And then some are the ones that I've created or have had shared with me. On the right-hand side, there is a
vertical scroll bar.
So I can quickly
30%
jump back up somewhere.
Downloads.
30. Okay, there's my downloads folder. That's in iCloud, so anything I download is automatically going to be available on all my devices. And on the Mac, you have to change that because there's also a local downloads folder on the Mac. But if you go into your Safari settings, formerly known as Safari Preferences, now it's Safari Settings. But if you do that, you can choose the download location of iCloud so that it matches what your iPhone and iPad are doing so that all the downloads are synced with iCloud. Anyway, that's there. And you can, you know, open any one of these up by simply double tapping on it. You also can get long press actions and rotor actions. Now, this is one of those cases where I recommend using the long press, but you also can get most of the same things in the rotor. And sometimes I do. But like if we want a long press on one of these folders, let's just go.
Brushes, book file, audio files.
All right, audio files.
Folder,
let's see.
265 items.
It tells me it's a folder and there are 265 items in it. Actions available means there definitely are rotor actions, but I'm going to long press to show you all of those. Okay, let's listen. Remove download. What happens here is iCloud Drive is not necessarily stored locally on your device, but when you access a folder, it's going to download its contents for you. If your storage gets low or you don't use it after a while, then it will remove it automatically. You don't really have to worry about it. It just stays in iCloud, though. It doesn't delete it. It just removes it from your device. This one apparently happens to be on my device as well, so I can say remove download. That's not going to delete the folder. Understand that. That's only going to remove the local copy to preserve some space if I want to manually do that, but it's still going to remain in iCloud. You're not deleting the folder. It just removes the local copy. So remove download. And then what else now? I'm not gonna go into each one as extensively as that, but I thought you should know what that one means. So let's look what else we have.
Download now button.
And then there's download now. Now I'm not sure why it's showing both. It makes me wonder whether this really is stored locally or whether maybe parts of it are and not the whole thing. Whatever, it really doesn't matter. I'm not worried about storage space. Praise God, I don't have to be.
Get info button, rename button, compress button, duplicate button, new folder with item button, tags button, favored button, copy button, move button, share button, delete button, dismiss context menu.
Okay, and most of those I think probably require very minimal or no explanation. Get info will show you the details of the folder, or if it's a file, it'll show you the kind of file, and of course when it was created and last modified and all that. Share is going to bring up a whole host of sharing options, and for files you can either send a copy or you can collaborate, and if the file supports that. But same thing with a folder, you can share the entire folder collaboratively. Compress creates a zip archive. What else was there? Well, there's copy, move, and duplicate. 3 important differences, right? Copy puts the file or folder in the clipboard, and then you can paste it later. Move instantly lets you choose a new location to move it to. And if you're going within the same file service like iCloud Drive, it will actually move the file. If you're going from one file service to another, like Dropbox to iCloud, it is going to copy it. Even though it says move, it's going to actually end up copying it. And it shows you that in the status when you're doing it. And then duplicate, of course, creates an exact copy of the same folder or file in the same location and just appends like a number 2 to it or something after that, so that you have 2 copies and then you can work with one or the other. You know what rename is? Tags, that's where you can provide tags to your file or your folder. So if I want to tag a specific item, I can do that. All right, so let's go in here. Let's open up audio files because that's definitely something we can play with.
65 items. O1 Writer GM. Dictate. Search. More. Button.
Again, we have more in here.
Audio files. iCloud Drive. Back button.
Our back button at the upper left. So we can find some files here.
29 Jeopardy TV theme, audio, 33 restaurant, 43 game show Hollow Time is running out clock, audio, in iCloud, 2/22/22, 733 kilobytes.
And if you just leave your cursor there, you get a lot of information already about the particular file. And that was a sound file. This is my audio files folder, and I have a lot of sounds in here that I have put into different apps for use in different situations, as well as certain audio that I need for other things too. This one said it was a game show. Time is running out. It told me the size of it. It told me that it's currently in iCloud, so it's not being stored on this device right now. Again, let's start out by finding out what the long press actions are.
Download now button. Get info button. Rename button. Compress button. Duplicate button. Quick look button. New folder with item button. Tags button. Copy. Move. Share. Delete. Dismiss context menu button.
Right. So now, if I want to, what did I want to show you? If I want to tag this,
move. Copy. Tags button. Tags heading. Done button.
You can hit done when you're finished, but now look.
Add new tag button.
At the top, you can add a new tag, but then here are all the existing ones.
Faith Summit button. Family button. Podcasts button.
So if I want to tag this with any of these tags, I just double tap to turn them on. And then when I'm finished,
add done button.
I hit done. Okay. That's how easy that is. Now, also, you saw that there was a share option under there when we long pressed that. Let's do it again.
In iCloud, 2/20.
Okay, and what we have is we actually, well, let me do it again. Sorry about that. Okay, there we go. Share is down here. Let's show you.
43 game show Hollow 43 game 40 send copy button.
If I want to, I can double tap on that to change it, and I can see if collaborate is available. Sometimes it will be supported for certain files, other times not so much, but we can double tap that to see. It's on send copy right now, though.
Close button.
You can close without sharing.
Matthew's
Here's your share sheet with all the list of people that I can share, the sharing suggestions. And then after that, I can see the next section, which is your
AirDrop, messages, mail, Amber, Messenger, notes, journal, LG Thank You, voice memos, button.
So you can open up an audio file in the voice memos app. Okay.
Freeform, drive, iMovie, button, more, button, copy, button, adds a new quick note, add tags, button, print with HP Smart, search with Google Lens, describe with Be My Eyes, download file, edit actions.
And look at all these choices, right? Tons and tons of choices. The one choice that you're not seeing here that we talked about before is save to files. And I'm going to show you that in another way, because there are times when you're going to want to save something to files, and you need to understand how that works as well. So now let's go ahead this time, instead of using the context menu, let's actually go ahead and double tap on the file to open it up, because all we've done so far is the long press, and that's fine. But I really need to show you what happens when you open the file. So let's go back here. Here it was again, the game show. Double tap.
List button.
Okay. Now.
List button. 43 game show hollow time is running out clock. Actions menu button.
So again, we'll get a lot of these same options here.
43 game share. 43 audio recording middle dot 733 kilobytes. Duplicate, move, rename, dismiss context menu.
Not as many, but some of the same. Share and duplicate and so on. All right. There's the done button.
Done button.
When we're done, we're in a quick look interface right now here.
Play button.
We can play this and see what it sounds like.
List button.
And if we swipe right,
43 get done button.
It's done.
12 seconds elapsed. Media timeline 15 seconds. Adjustable.
There's your slider.
Tap and hold. A toolbar. Share button.
There's the share button again.
Pause button.
Pause.
Pause. Share.
And
play.
Now it went back to play because it's finished playing. But there's a share button here too.
Share button.
And when we're finished,
media play done.
Of course, we can hit done. So it's very easy to simply open up a file and to play it. Now, again, some of these are going to open directly in the app that was used to create them, but an audio file, you're going to have some choices. So when you double tap on it, it's not opening up in a particular app. What it's doing is opening in what's called a quick look interface. If that were a document, that means I can read the document. Maybe I can mark up the document, add a signature, fill it out if it's a form. But basically, I'm reading it, I'm viewing it. And with an audio file, it means I'm listening to it. But then I have to decide what I want to do with it. So if all I want to do is listen to it, then that's the end. I can just hit done. But what if I want to save this?
43 game show hollow list button.
Or not save it. What if I want to work with it somewhere else? So again, I double tapped it.
40 done. Play button. List 20 media top toolbar. Pause button.
We'll pause it.
Pause.
But now, what if I want to open this up in another app to do more work with it? So we would use share to do that.
Share button. 43 game show hollow time is run.
And again, do you remember some of these options that were not like people sharing, but rather other apps? Like, let me show you.
Mail, Amber, Messenger.
And that's different ways to.
Notes, journal, button.
Okay.
LG Thank You, voice memos, button.
Voice memos. If I want to open this up in the voice memos app and save it there or work on it there, work with it, I can do that. And there's another one that.
Freeform.
Let's see.
Drive, iMovie.
iMovie. That one, I want to open it up in iMovie to put it into a video project. And even Freeform and notes and stuff, you're opening it up in those apps, saving it as part of a note. It's going to become an attachment in a note, or it's going to become part of a Freeform board. We've not learned the Freeform app yet, but it is very powerful, and it's, definitely makes sense. Again, every once in a while, some of these apps in this list don't make sense to me. Like the Amber app is the recipe app, and I'm not sure why you would open the file there. The LG ThinQ app, I'm really not sure why you'd open it there. Maybe that allows you to play that audio file on your LG TV. I don't know. If I were going to do it, I'd do it with AirPlay, not with that. But maybe that is what that's for. There were, I think, a couple others that I saw that, Drive is Google Drive. You could save it there. And of course, don't forget about the ways you can send it: messages, mail, messenger, all of those. But voice memos and iMovie are probably the two most likely here that you'd open it up in if you wanted to take it outside of the Files app. Now, if I were using my iPad Pro to do this demo, you would hear Ferrite on there because I have Ferrite Recording Studio, and you would hear maybe Backpack or something because I have that audio editor as well, or audio recording app. So you'd have other options. Logic Pro is on my iPad. Now, I do have GarageBand on my iPhone, but you have to bring an audio file into GarageBand a little bit differently. So that's not in that list. But, a lot of different places that you can work with these. And again, just depending on the kind of file that it is, are going to depend on what options you get. So, if let me get out of this completely and let me hit done here, and let's find something different. Let's go back.
iCloud, audio exchange, audio book, attachments and photo.
Here's attachments and photos now instead. So we're no longer talking about audio now. And I will find. Let's see. What can I use here? Well, here's a text document, okay? Here's a plain text, a TXT. And if I double tap on it, it's a document we had worked on a while ago describing iCloud and so forth.
List button. All about iCloud. Actions menu. Done button.
Well, you see that we can read it.
All about iCloud. As stated by Apple's Steve Jobs during his initial introduction of the service, iCloud stores were since its introduction. Device support. iCloud is built into every app if you have a PC running Windows.
All right, so all of this is the actual document. But if I touch near the bottom of the screen in the center.
Toolbar. Search button. Search share. Vertical tool. Search button.
See, this document is searchable because it's text. If it were a PDF, it would also have a markup option and an autofill option. So we could fill out the form, or we could mark it up with different types of, markings and so forth. But notice the share option.
Share button.
Is going to have different choices in it. Now, it's going to have some of the same things in it, but it's also going to have other things in it as well. So let me show you.
Messages,
I'll go down to
button.
the second section here where messages, airdrop.
Messages, mail, Amber, Facebook, button, Messenger, button, notes, Amazon, reminders, button, journal, button, books, button, LG ThinQ, more, button, copy, print, button, add to new quick note, add tags.
All right,
save to files.
And notice that one has the save to files option.
Save to files button.
Even though it's already in files, I'm not sure, but it has that. You heard it has the Apple Books app listed here. So and the print option, so we can print it out directly. Or it has Read in Prismo.
Read in Prismo. Search with Google Lens.
All right.
Describe with Be My Eyes.
Now I'm going to show you what it's like to save it because it gives you the option here.
Print, save to files, save. Browse, iCloud Drive, backbone.
Okay, the first thing you want to do when you're going to save the files is see where it's saving. So we swipe to the right.
PDFs, actions menu, more, button, save, button, search, dictate,
And you heard it say,
save, more, PDFs, actions menu.
PDFs, that's where it wants to put this. If I don't want to put it there, I can choose another location.
Apple device.
And the way I do that is up here on the upper left. Is
iCloud Drive back button.
The iCloud Drive back button. It's going to take me to my whole list of iCloud Drive folders. I can pick any that I want and double tap it, or I can even go inside of a folder and then find another subfolder and I can double tap. Whatever I double tap on is where it's going to save it. It's already choosing to save it to PDFs. Now notice at the bottom of the screen, there's something else very important. At the very bottom of the screen, after all my folders and files.
All about iCloud, text field. Double tap to edit, tags, button, tag, all about sync with iCloud, vertical, all about iCloud, text field.
Okay, and
double tap to edit tags button.
Two very important options here. One is the file name. All About iCloud, it's a text field. It says double tap to edit. So if I want to change the name, I can do that. If I don't want to call it All About iCloud when I save it, I can literally just type a new name in there. And the one to the right of that was add tags. Okay. So the other thing I want to show you is that we are in the PDFs folder. That's where it wants to save this to. But up at the upper right here is the save button.
Save button.
That will confirm the save. But what if you want to make a new folder inside of PDFs?
More.
Well, there's the more button.
New folder button.
See that? And there's
Selected
other
icons,
other
list,
options there that we don't need to worry about. But this is the saving interface, and yet you have all these options that you can choose from. You can make a new folder. You can change the file name. It's just that easy. And if we don't want to do any of that, all we have to do is, instead of hitting save, we're going to just get out of this by swiping with two fingers on our Z scrub. And there we go. Okay, there wasn't really a cancel button that I saw, but you just do the scrub gesture, and it takes you right out of it. So that's what I did there. And we're back to the list of files and folders again.
Folder.
And let me see. No, actually, I'm wrong. Hold on a minute, guys. What that did is that took us out of that folder instead of
iCloud search.
Instead of actually
more iCloud browse.
Okay, so what I'd have to do is go back here. Okay, I had to go all the way back first, then I could hit cancel now.
Cancel button.
All right.
All About iCloud.
And when I hit cancel,
send copy button.
I'm back where I was. Now I can tap
dismiss pop-up
off of that.
As previously mentioned.
And then I'm still in the quick view.
List, but All About it done.
Hit done. So let me explain to you again, because I misled you there the first time. When you are in that save interface, if you don't want to save, I normally don't do that. Normally when I go into that interface, I save it. If you hit save, it just saves it and then you're done. But if you don't want to save, you actually have to go back to the uppermost level by hitting the back button, and then it will say cancel. Once you hit cancel, then it took me back to where I previously was before I chose save to files, which was inside of the share sheet, remember, because that's what we hit was share to see all those different options there. And then after that, I could get out of that and do whatever else I wanted to. So just an extra step there I didn't think about. Again, I normally don't get out of it when I choose save to files. I actually save it to files, right? And again, all of your choices will depend entirely upon what you have, what the kind of file is. So this is attachments and photos. Let's see if I find, and by the way, if it needs to download the file first, it will from iCloud. I wanted to see if I find a photo real quick. Okay, this is no, that's a zip file. Here's a folder, and I think it's got photos in it.
Sync with 3 web SVG folder, PNG folder,
PNG.
Apple sync with 2 items. Apple teacher _white image 11/10/16 15 kilobytes. Swipe up or down to select a custom action, then double tap to activate.
Okay, this is a folder. I mean, this is an image, and if I long press this,
remove down, get info, rename, compress, duplicate, quick look, new folder, tags, copy, move, share.
And I say share. Notice some of the options are going to be different now. We still have all the sharing suggestions.
Matthew, Monica, Kirk.
We'll go past that, but let's go to messages and past that.
Mail, Amber, Facebook, Messenger, Notes, Amazon, Alexa, Reminders, Journal, Books, button, more, copy, save image, button.
Save image, that'll save it to your photo library.
Assign to contact, button.
You can assign it to a contact.
Print, button.
Print it out.
Add to new quick note. Add to shared album, button.
Add to a shared album.
Create watch face.
You can create a watch face with it.
Add tags. Print
and of course add tags and even process in Prismo. So what we have is we have different options depending upon what the kind of file is. Now, again, you notice that a lot of the options are the same, but then there are going to be different ones just depending on what apps you have installed and what the kind of file is that you're working with. With an image, you have the ability to create a watch face or to assign it to a contact. So there are special options that just depend on what type of file you are working with. Now, let's see. Also, I showed you how to save something to files, okay? And I showed you how to sort of, look at all the different actions that are available and open up a file or a document or whatever. One of the things I want to teach you how to do is copy and paste, because this is something unique that doesn't get a lot of attention, but if you don't know how to do it, it's not going to work properly for you. So I am going to, again, before we do that, describe the difference between copy, duplicate, and move. If you want to simply make an exact copy of a file in the same location so that you have two of the same thing, and you can then do whatever you want with one of them or the other, maybe, you're working on one and you want to preserve the original or something, then that's duplicate. You just hit duplicate and it immediately makes an exact copy in the same location. And it distinguishes them by putting some appendage like a number 2 or something on the end of one of them. Okay, that's duplicate. Move will actually move the folder or file to a new location. Once you choose move, it's going to ask you where you want to move it to. And remember, in some cases, it's still going to make a copy if you're moving it to a different file service, but within the same, like just a different iCloud folder, it is actually going to move it. It's not going to copy it. And then the third option is copy. And that puts it in the clipboard and allows you to paste it wherever you want. And that's the one that needs some demonstration. The other two are very straightforward and very self-explanatory. I'm going to show you how to copy and paste. So let's find something. Let me go back.
Apple Teacher Signature. Apple Teacher Signature. Attachments and attachment. iCloud.
Let's actually go back to audio files.
Brushes. Book. Audio files.
And let's copy one of these, that one we had there.
29 Jeopardy, 33 Restaurant, 43 Game Show. Hollow Time is running out. Clock. Audio 2/20.
Okay, so we're going to copy this. The first thing we're going to do is long press. You could find this in the rotor as well. You get a little prompt.
Remove down. And quick look. New tag. Copy button.
We're going to hit copy.
2018.
Okay, that puts it in the clipboard. Now we have to paste. So let's go to a new folder or a different folder. Let's paste this in our audio exchange folder that Trainer Cliff and I share.
iCloud Drive. iCloud. Brushes. Audio exchange folder. Options.
Okay, I'm in.
Sync with 21 TV in the.
I'm in our audio exchange folder. And how are we going to paste this file? Well, we're going to use the paste option in the rotor under edit, right? No, because that is pasting text. That is not pasting other stuff that's in the clipboard. Where are we going to find an option to paste? And maybe they've added it into a new place. I'm going to take a look.
More.
See if it's under more.
Select. New folder. Scan document. Connect to serve. Selected. Icon. Lit. Select time. Date. Size.
Nope.
Tags. View option. Dismiss context.
Still not under there. So where in the world do we find paste? And the answer is, it's sort of a little hidden gem. You have to long press on the status bar at the bottom of the screen.
Tab bar. Sync with iCloud. 21 items.
Right there where it says 21 items or whatever number of items it's going to say. You long press, double tap and hold. Okay.
New folder.
It pops up something there. There's a little context menu.
New folder.
New folder.
Button. Paste. Button.
There's paste.
Move item here. Button.
Move item here. That would move it instead of pasting it.
Scan documents. Get info.
All these other options.
Dismiss context.
We're going to choose paste.
Move item. Paste. Button. TTJS logo.
And you remember what it was called? It had a number 23 at the beginning. So let's go up and see.
Options. Shared. 43. 2000.
There, 43.
43 game show. Hollow time is running out. Clock. Audio. 2000.
And there it is with everything else, okay? And it's that easy to paste, praise God. That's how you do that. And if it has any questions for you, it will ask, like, if you have something in the folder with that same name already, it's going to ask you if you want to paste anyway and keep both, or if you want to replace the existing one, or if you want to cancel the operation entirely. So you have the choice. It's going to not make that decision for you. It'll give you that, if it needs to ask you something, it will. Just be paying attention. And if we look at the bottom, it should already
sync with iCloud.
Yeah, I was going to say, because that was a very, very small file. If I were pasting a 3 gigabyte file, it would take some time to upload to iCloud and sync and everything. It would do it, praise God. It would just take a few minutes, not even minutes probably, but, a little bit of time. But in this case, it was instant because it was only kilobytes in size. And so now we did our paste action, and it was that easy. And that remains in the clipboard for a little while, not indefinitely, but for a little bit, it remains in the clipboard. And I can paste it again in another location if I wanted to, or whatever I want to do. And so what we've shown you thus far is we've shown you how to move files, to paste them, copy them, open them up. I think you can easily see how to delete them, because that's a choice in the long press menu and in the rotor. You saw how you can figure out how to rename again, because we saw that option. That's very, very easy. And basically anything you want to do. Let me just
iCloud Drive back button.
See if there's something I want to delete. I actually know there is. In this audio exchange folder, we have some old files that Trainer Cliff and I already talked about before, and he said, yeah, you can go ahead and delete these, and I never did. So I'm going to delete some stuff here.
Options. Shared. 40. 2000.
This is an old folder that we don't need anymore. This time I'll use the rotor just to show you that it can be done.
Drag item. Delete now.
And you saw that you have a drag option, so we can drag things to a new place. There's a delete and a delete now in the rotor, I think. Manage shared folder, because this is shared.
Copy tags, rename, new folder.
See if there's more than one.
Favorite, duplicate, compress, download now, activate, drag
okay,
item,
delete now. That's the only one in this particular situation.
Alert, are you sure you want to delete?
Now it's asking me if I'm sure, because it's in a shared folder, and it's going to tell me that everybody in that folder will lose access to it.
This item will be deleted immediately from all your devices. You can't undo this action.
Okay.
Cancel, delete.
Right now, it's only telling me that it's going to delete from my devices, but I'm pretty sure. Let's hit delete.
2023 to 2000.
And there we go. And it's gone. So that should take it from everybody's device as well. So that's how easy it is to do that. If we took, I don't know if there's anything else in here that we want to delete, because the rest of this stuff is not, it's probably not stuff we want to delete. Let's just take a look now. We don't want to delete any of that stuff. I think all this is, I don't think we want to delete any of the rest of this. So that's it. That's how easy it is. And let's see. Okay, yeah, I could delete some of these, but that's okay. You get the idea. They're very, very straightforward. Up here at the upper left again is our
iCloud Drive back button.
Button. And I honestly think that we are in good shape to go ahead and unmute Trainer Cliff, because I can't think of anything else that I need to say right now. I think that's it. Do you have anything that you want to say about the Files app that stands out in your mind, even if I already said it?
Well, I don't know what you said, but the one thing I like about it per se is the fact that if you choose to use those other third-party services like Google Drive, OneDrive, and pCloud, as everybody knows, is my second favorite, that you can house all that stuff in the Files app. So you technically don't even have to use those apps. You have to sign into them, but you don't have to go to them to get to those files, because the Files app organizes all that stuff for you, along with your network attached storage if you have one, and I just like the way that with Apple it just works. So, I mean, period. I mean, the file, it's literally a Files app, because you can file all your files no matter what service it comes from in there. So
exactly. Yep.
And you don't
100% agree.
and when you download something from Safari, I don't know if you covered this or not, you can actually set it is set to go into your downloads folder, but you don't have to have it. You can have a folder specifically set up for, because I have a downloads folder for Safari on my phone, and then I have another one for on my Mac. They go two different places, so I know that I was on my Mac when I downloaded this one, or I was on my phone when I downloaded that one. So you could set a different location for them files to go into after you download them. You just have to go into the settings, Safari, and then select that download location. So
the first comment is I like the Files app. However, the way I organize my files is it'll be like X committee or medical, or it'll be a topic. So what I find a little frustrating, but I've learned to work with it, is I go into the file. If I go into the file folder, I cannot open anything that's in Pages or Numbers. I have to go to those apps.
that's not necessarily true, because
how do you do that?
Because you might have your browser, or not your browser, but the view set on recents. But if you put it on browse, it'll organize your folders by name, and you could just go to the Pages folder, not the Pages app, but the Pages folder that's in your Files app, and open up that file within that folder.
That isn't what I want to do. I want to go to my committee folder and have access to all the documents, but it seems that I need to go to Pages or Numbers to open those particular documents. I can't just
whatever file you save it, whatever format you save it in, though, it's going to put it in that Pages or Keynote or whatever folder that is. I mean, you can browse to any folder name you want to, and it'll open it up in whatever file format you saved it in.
So in other words, if she has a Pages file saved in some other random place, it'll still open in Pages, right?
Yes, it will. Yes, it will.
That's what I thought.
Because I have a Word folder where I used to save my Word stuff from people that choose to still use that. And one time I accidentally saved a couple of Pages documents in that folder. I went to that folder, double tapped on it, and Pages launched with no issue. It doesn't matter where the file's housed at. What does it do when you double
tap on them, Karen? What does it do?
Well, I have low vision, so I can see that it's there, but it's kind of whited out. It's kind of not.
And that might actually be it opening up in protection view, which means it's not
the
opening,
reader mode.
The reader mode, that's what it's called. It's opening up in reader mode, and you just have to double tap to let it know that you want to edit it. But whenever you open up a file like Pages or Keynote in the Files app, it automatically opens up in reader mode, so you don't mess something up by accident.
See, what I'm concerned is happening probably is that because of the, again, when you try to do a combination of using low vision and using voiceover, sometimes either we get confused or we miss out on something, and you're probably missing out on what's really happening. I would say it's one of two things. Either it's opening in Pages in reader view, as Cliff said, which is my hunch as to what's happening, or it may be opening in a quick look interface where you then have to choose share and say Pages. But I think it's more than likely the first option. I think it's opening in Pages, but it's in reader view, and you have to exit the reader view to be able to edit the document.
And one other comment I'd like to make is in another class, one, and I have to hide mine. One of the female trainers used that Siri word, and my Siri's responded to it. So I thought that was a little weird. I thought they were supposed to be honed in on my particular voice.
Nope, it's honed in on the actual word or phrase, because that's why Matt usually spells it out, so it doesn't make everybody else's respond.
Right. So it will recognize your voice like on the home pods and so forth, so that it knows who is talking to it when asking specific requests. So that, if you have a family and you ask what's on my calendar versus somebody else in your family asking, it will give you the correct information that applies to you. It has voice recognition in that regard, but when it hears the wake word, like any other smart speaker or smart assistant, it's pretty much going to respond to it. most of
Okay,
the time.
it was like, so it's not voice particular. I thought it was.
Right. Not in waking it up initially, right.
But after that it is?
It depends on the device. It depends on the device. You know, a device like a HomePod, yes, it will identify who's speaking if they you know, as part of your family or what have you. Yes.
I opened my files when you were doing it just so I could follow you and looking at the tabs and stuff. And I was surprised to find a whole bunch of stuff in there. And I don't remember ever using the app, so I don't know how it got there. So that's what I was checking to see. It's stuff that I would have wanted to save at some point because it was Native American music. And I don't know when I listened to it and how I got it into the Files app since I'd never used the Files app before.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, so there's a couple of possibilities. If you get music directly from Apple Music or the iTunes store or whatever, it's not going to go in there because it'll go into the music app. But if you had like if somebody sent you, you know, a folder of MP3s or something like that, really the question would be, which of course, you know, you may not know because obviously you don't remember the answer to this, but it really depends on where it came from, because some things will save, like the downloads. If you download stuff on the internet, like Cliff was saying, that is going to save into your Files app.
When we're talking about text files, when you go into a text file, you know, in the files menu, can you write in that file or edit in that file or do things in it or just look at it?
You can edit a text file, but there are a couple extra steps on an iOS device to get it to a place that you can edit it. I'm trying to think what I saw. I don't think I saw Pages in that list. What I would do if I wanted to edit a text file is I would actually, under the share menu, I would choose copy. And then I would open whatever you want to work in, Pages or Notes or whatever, and I would paste it in there. Because if you choose share with a text file and choose Notes, it's going to put it in Notes as an attachment, but not as something editable. And that's just the way it is in the current version. I mean, that could change someday, but that's how it is right now. So on an iOS device, if you open a text file and hit share, I would choose copy and then just open wherever you want to put it to edit it and choose paste, and you can work with it there. Now, I think on a Mac, the text file could be opened directly in TextEdit, right, Cliff?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not directly editable.
Right. You would just paste it into wherever you want, start a new note, a new document, whatever, and then just bring it in there, and it's going to be editable.
Okay. And one other question, and I don't know if it's on topic or not, I wish you could tell me, but the flash drives, is there a flash drive that's made specifically for the phone?
Not so much anymore. There used to be, before you could use standard flash drives with the Files app, but nowadays, honestly, any flash drive ought to work. I mean, there can be some weird quirks and weird exceptions, but most any flash drive will work. The thing you need to do is get the correct adapter for your iPhone. So depending on which iPhone do you have?
SE23 or 21, whatever, the latest one.
So you would need the USB Lightning to USB adapter, and actually the one with the number 3 in it is what we recommend there. It's called the Lightning to USB 3 camera adapter. It's still called a camera adapter because that's what it was initially created for. But it actually, the reason we say the USB 3 one is it's faster, and it also has a second Lightning port in it, so that if you would need to charge your device at the same time, it's not taking up that one and only Lightning port. Or in certain cases, certain USB drives don't get enough power just from the iPhone. So then you need to plug them in, plug your device into power at the same time. So you need an adapter. But yes, basically any flash drive will work then.
Okay, well, the same thing with an external drive then? Like a hard drive?
Yes. Now with an external hard drive, that's going to be especially important to provide external power. So, there again, if you get that adapter, then you would plug the drive into the USB port and plug your iPhone charger into the other lightning port, but yes, that will work as well. Thanks to Trainer Cliff for your help. God bless you, everybody, and thanks. We will see you next time.
We'd like to thank you again for joining Voiceover In&Out 2023. Didn't get your question answered? Need additional training? Send us an email at support@ttjtech.biz or support@stiritup.com. And remember, stir is spelled with the U. That's STURITUP.com. I'm Trainer Cliff. Thanks for joining us, and see you next time. God bless.